Welcome back to Not Alone with Melissa Sue Methvin, where every story is to make sure that you're not alone. And I do have health experts bring awareness because I do feel knowledge is power. And today, we're going to dive deep into the nervous system with Dr. Diane Liu, who is a dentist out of British Columbia. And how we got connected is because I also teach about the nervous system in the dental field. I started my new program called the Dental Chair System, which I pre-recorded breathwork with meditation and frequency music for the provider to take care of the provider, the dentist, the dental team, and also for the patient in the waiting room, nervous to about to sit in that dental chair. Recordings for the patient in the dental chair while they're getting procedures done. So they're pre-recorded 2 to 3 minute meditations and breathwork techniques because it is important for the nervous system to come back into regulation, to come back in the rest and repair. And just these simple tools to be incorporated for the dentist on a day-to-day basis will give them the sustainability, will give them that vitality. Because today you're going to learn what happens if a nervous system stays in that fight and flight, the sympathetic. We're going to dive deep into the science. And I'm so excited to share. So a little information about Dr. Diane Liu. Dr. Liu is a practicing holistic dentist, certified yoga and meditation teacher, sound healer, health coach, speaker, and founder of the Rest to Thrive, a wellness education company dedicated to helping high-performing professionals create success without sacrificing their health, energy, and nervous system. After personally experiencing her burnout, chronic pain, and insomnia, Dr. Liu discovered something many professionals never learn: that achievement and sustainability are not the same thing. Her journey led her to explore the powerful connection between mindfulness, nervous system regulation, and true well-being. Today, she combines her experience in dentistry, meditation, yoga, and wellness education to help individuals and teams move from burnout and survivor mode into a life of resilience, presence, and authentic energy. What I love most about Dr. Liu's message is that she reminds us that success isn't just about what we accomplish. It's about how we feel in our bodies, our relationships, and our lives. So welcome today, Dr. Diane Liu, as we're going to dive into the nervous system in a dental practice for the provider and what resources are out there for them so that we can make this profession lasting and sustainability for them and decreasing burnout. It all starts with awareness and education. So before I get started, though, I always love to start with a couple breaths, which I know you're going to love that. And so I put one hand on my heart, one hand on my belly, and we're going to take a few deep breaths. So inhale and a long exhale. One more like this. And now on the next inhale, we're going to do solely through the nose. So inhale through the nose for 4. And a long exhale through the nose. I always love starting with a few breaths so that we can connect in heart coherence. And today is so fitting with you, Dr. Liu. Am I saying it correctly?
Yeah,
Yes,
totally.
because we're going to deep dive into the nervous system for the provider in the dental practice and how that impacts us over time. Because I know just through your own story of burnout, you've lived it. And I really do feel until a provider and dentist professional lives through a burnout, mercury poisoning, they can't unsee the truth of the dental profession. And I love that you're speaking up and sharing your story, because that's going to save another provider, which I truly feel the mouth is the mirror to the entire body system and should be almost like the number one place people look once they start having these little whispers in their body that something is going on, more inflammation, autoimmune disease, cardiac disease. Let's look in the mouth. So I've got to make sure that we keep the providers to be have human sustainability, and I truly feel it starts with the nervous system. So welcome today. I'm honored that we got connected.
Yes, thank you so much. And I couldn't agree more that it's, our own, when we hit our own low points and have these personal experiences of disease, of burnout, of different symptoms in our body, that we can learn from that. So, yeah, thank you so much for having me on your incredible podcast. And I hope the things that we talk about, someone could truly, truly benefit from. And I love how it's called feeling less alone or not
Yes,
alone.
not alone. Yeah, I think it fits for so many different kind of subjects, and because it can be so confusing and lonely when you start having these dark times in your life, and resources are confusing than what you hear on social media or from even just providers. So I would love for you to shine a light a bit where you were at in your profession at a time where burnout, like what are some of the whispers you were getting until it got really loud?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I feel like when I signed up for dentistry, I was sold that it was going to be, good work-life balance, well-paying, this ideal career where we're going to have a lot of time to ourselves and the environment is going to be great. And little did I know that this profession is one of the most stressful professions. I had no idea what I signed up for. And so early in my career, I, was a dental student at the time, and I was completely just shocked with the amount of workload. And there was so much that, that inner bully, the itty bitty shitty committee that we often know about personally, the voice that tells us we're not good enough, the voice that is beating ourselves up for our mistakes, fear of failure. That was a huge one for me. And then this like perfectionism, I feel like most of
Oh,
dental
yes.
professionals struggle with, which is
Mhm.
huge. That was really eating away at my mental health. And at that time, I didn't have any of the tools that I have now to be able to witness that itty bitty shitty committee and know how to work with that counsel in our heads through mindfulness, but also the tools to care for our nervous system, to be able to metabolize stress. And another thing about dentistry is that, I think that we often don't acknowledge the nervous system load on ourselves,
Mhm.
and even though we might feel it, right? So, this physical load, the awkward, contorted postures where we're having to sit like a croissant and having to do these twists and bending upside down sometimes to see because
Oh
the
yeah,
visibility.
it's like oh.
That, like just the lingual of that back molar, right?
Mhm. Yes.
And a lot of times there's like blood and lots of saliva, and it's hard to even see what we're doing. And we're doing micromillimeter surgery, like really precision work that require a super dry environment for the products to be successful. On top of that, on a patient that might feel anxious, that has had dental trauma in the past, and they're very nervous, or maybe it's a patient that has really high expectations and they're moving around and there's a big tongue and all different anatomy. Everyone's so unique. And so the stakes are high. And on top of that, you have, staff personalities. Some are, really don't vibe well with each other, right? And so there
Oh,
can
yeah.
be staff conflicts happening or drama.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, exactly. And then there's like all of a sudden the equipment decides to not work and we have to shift gears. And then there's, unexpected things that happen in the treatment. Not most treatments, well, a lot of them, sometimes they don't go as planned. And, and this is not, and if you're a practice owner, I mean, there's a whole slew of, having to deal with insurance and, like equipment breakdowns and also the huge cost of owning a practice. And this is not even including all the stuff that we are holding in our nervous system at home. If we have families and our kids are struggling at school or they're feeling really anxious or we have an argument with our partner, I mean, there's so much in our life where we get hit after hit after hit of stress, and we probably haven't even recovered the day before. And in fact, many of us don't actually know how to recover, which I do want to talk a little bit more about that.
Mhm.
So, to get back to your question of like, what are some of the symptoms in our body? For me at that time, I was feeling a lot of like gut issues at the time. And, my digestion didn't feel off. I was feeling very bloated. I was also getting these like weird skin reactions that were happening. But the biggest piece that was really debilitating was where I mentioned that itty bitty shitty committee, that inner critic that was in my head was very, very loud, and it would follow me to sleep. It would follow me to bed. And I would sit there ruminating about my day, and replaying situations in my head, which is obviously not conducive to sleep. And this led to 6 months of insomnia. And so, for any of you that are familiar with insomnia, it's very debilitating. It's almost like you're on
Oh, yeah.
this spiral. I don't know if you've ever experienced insomnia.
I've experienced insomnia. Yeah, absolutely. Once my husband passed, but I know so many friends that have as well. And I recognize it's a nervous system dysregulation and it spirals. If we can't they can't rest and repair. I know how damaging that can be. So what do we do? Right.
Yeah, yeah. And it's hard because you're like anxious that, questioning, will you actually sleep tonight? Like
Mhm.
there's a fear that, will sleep happen? And then there's a worry spiral, and then you just can't get out of your head. And so, and then on the next, and then you feel exhausted and horrible the next
And
day.
then you get desperate, right? People get desperate because they're like, I need to sleep. So they go to, oftentimes the providers. And I'm never a black and white when it comes to modern medicine, but they'll reach for at that point, a sleeping aid, and because they just need that relief, right? Because they're kind of desperate, and I get it. You need sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Like, yeah, I mean, and not a lot of us have the tools,
Mhm.
especially, you and I love that we've both discovered the foundations, which is the nervous system and caring for the nervous system, and to really get us out of that cycle, which
Yes.
is another alternative I feel like that people
Yes.
don't really know about. I also got certified in cognitive behavioral therapy, which is also an amazing modality.
Mm.
Um, 80% effective, more effective than sleeping pills that
Yes,
can.
I mean, more root cause is what I say. Yeah, sleeping pill might help for now, but it's not getting to your root cause. So
Yeah,
that's where I'm like, I'm more on the root cause. Let's ask why you're not sleeping, why that was activated. So,
yeah, totally. And exploring those deeper layers.
mhm.
And then the biggest health scare for me was one day I woke up and I it was very, very frightening because I had lost feeling in my hands.
Oh, wow.
Like my hands turned numb and weak, and I couldn't even open a door. And that freaked me out as a dentist. This is our
Of
like
course,
livelihood.
yeah.
And I'm just like, the first thought I thought was that I have rheumatoid arthritis, or I knew it was inflammatory in nature, obviously. And so I went to go see a specialist, and she ran a bunch of tests. And She couldn't find anything. But she started to ask me really good questions. She started to ask me about my sleep and my stress levels, both of which were really high, my stress levels, and my sleep was obviously not good. And she said, and this really changed my life. What she shared with me is that, it's very common in her practice to see people that have weird symptoms like myself, different flare ups from stress, from poor sleep. And that was the moment that I started to link chronic stress with chronic inflammation, with, you know, all these other symptoms of inflammation in our body, right? Like the
And
gut.
how important for providers to know that, right? That chronic stress is causing that inflammation, because as we know, it's like 80% of dentists have back issues, right? I know so many have had neck fuse, back surgeries, but the root cause, that load, that stress load over time, just as important for information to circle back and pausing, it causes inflammation.
Yes,
Inflammation is such a root cause for disease, right? We want
that's it.
inflammation down. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we know about it in dentistry through inflammation in our gums, right? But it also can lead to like the skin breakouts, the hives I was feeling. And a lot of times, like you mentioned already, like autoimmune disease is inflammatory based. And so they're all connected, they're all related. And that was the first time I really bridged that connection and started to explore more deeply into the science of that. But, I was very lucky at that time when I was going through like one of the worst times in my life, in the sense that my mom was like the light in my life that was begging me. She saw my health starting to deteriorate. And she, at that time, at the age of 45, so you're never too young to start, is she decided to get her yoga teacher's training. And she wasn't a yogi. She didn't do a lot of yoga, in our upbringing, but there was something that drew her to the modality of yoga. And, in her training, I watched my mom get younger. I watched her get healthier. I
Wow.
watched her get more strong and flexible. And her personality started to change in the sense that she was just less reactive. And I was like, who is she becoming right now? And it really, like, I wasn't interested at yoga at the time. I actually thought it was for, fit, flexible people, or acrobatic people. But she, watched me struggle so much and was begging me to try yoga. And she thought that it could really help me. And at that time I had no tools. So I was like, okay, like I'm willing to try anything. And, so I went to, I joined a yoga studio, and they had a $30 for 30-day challenge. And I signed up for that. And, the first time I experienced yoga was very awkward. They were talking in Sanskrit. I was going in upside down, all these funny postures, and it felt really uncomfortable. But,
Like
it's really,
anything new that you try feels uncomfortable at first, right?
it's like, yeah. And I decided I wanted to commit. I decided I wanted to commit to the 30 days and see. I was curious what would happen. And, as I kept going, as I kept showing up, I started to feel less anxious. I started to feel like I had more energy. I started to feel more healthy. I'm doing these postures. And at that time I signed up for it was a Ashtanga yoga, right? So I feel like I really needed that because it was a lot of like physical movement and strength. So it felt like a good workout. But also, I started to notice that my sleep was improving, and the flare up and the numbness in my hands started to dissipate. I started to get feeling back in my hands, and I was just like blown away with what was happening in my body. And I just remember one of the the most life-changing moments during that time was about 15 days in to yoga, where I was lying down in Shavasana, and for about 30 seconds, I felt peace.
Yeah.
Like I
And
didn't,
if we explain Shavasana, people that have never done it, it's really you're laying on the mat flat and you're just breathing, right? You're just kind of breathing. You're laying there in silence.
yeah. And, normally if I laid in silence, my mind would be like, "Mur, mur, 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 mur," right? But that moment, I think was because, and I want to get into this more, but metabolizing like all that stress from the movement, from the intentional mindful breathing. And then my body was finally able to let go and the thoughts started to quiet. And that moment of pure peace, that ability to just be, changed the trajectory of my life. And so when I started to dig into the science of what was happening in my body and started to explore different modalities, and I know one of your favorite ones is breath work, yeah, which is so profound. And then sound healing is another one, yoga nidra, um, all sorts of styles of yoga, so many different modalities. I started studying the nervous system. And one of the things I found that every single modality had in common was they all elicit the relaxation response.
Mm.
All take that nervous system
Back in
into
coherence, right?
that, back in coherence,
Yeah.
back into homeostasis,
Mm.
back into that parasympathetic part of our nervous system gets activated. And that is the opening, the access to our body's innate healer. And so if we were to take one pill that could do everything for our bodies, I call it our body's innate pharmacy, where we can decrease inflammation, we can rebalance our hormones and decrease our stress hormones, that cortisol, that adrenaline, where we can heal our gut, we can improve our immune system, we can repair, regenerate. All of that stems from taking our body into that deep rest state, that deep relaxation, which is why I then founded Rest to Thrive, which is
I love the name. I love the name because we all want to thrive. I'm all about that vitality. What do you want? We don't want to just
yeah,
live. We want to thrive ultimately in vitality. And I love how you mentioned all these modalities. Yeah, it can make you even younger. You start incorporating that. You saw that with your mom, right? That
yeah,
vitality, that movement. And until we get you back in that parasympathetic, that is rest and repair. And people need to understand that. You can't rest and repair until you get your body back in that state. And I love how you're blending science, because a lot of us need to understand the science behind it, right? Because for yourself, even before, you thought, well, you didn't think anything of science related when it came down to doing yoga or
mhm.
doing breath work. You didn't think, well, that's science, but there is.
Yeah. I mean, it's just physiology.
Mhm.
It's biology, right? And as most of us, we are really good at working hard, being ambitious, pushing through, actually just like overriding our body's cues of exhaustion, right? And so many of us, we're really good at achieving, but the rest piece, the rest, which is our body's innate healing system, which allows us to thrive, that is something that a lot of us, especially me in the past, really struggle with. So
I would
also
say
want to,
most people do. I most people around me, it's very hard to slow
yeah,
down.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, and so that's like a little bit about my story. And I really focus on supporting those types of people like myself that have a hard time slowing down, that have a hard time pausing and resting and allowing our bodies to go into that parasympathetic.
Yeah, so you're taking care, same as me, is like through stories, taking care of the provider. Because the provider now, we need to have them human sustainability to heal others, right? The mouth is so important. But if we don't take care of the healer, and make them recognize what's affecting it on a daily basis. For example, taking on other people's energy on a daily basis, affecting the nervous system, the sonic sounds, the environmental toxins, and so I love that you are so passionate to bring that to light for professionals as well, and explain your program that you're launching actually in July. Explain to us what it incorporates and who is it for?
Yeah, so I'm running a group program for dental professionals that's starting in about a month. And the reason why I created this was that, you know, I like myself in the past, I just never had the tools to learn how to metabolize my stress in a healthy way, because truly we can't eliminate stress. Life will always keep lifing, that argument with your spouse, that disappointed patient, the staff member that just quits, right? Like there's so many things that are unexpected and unpredictable. And so I realized that, instead of trying to eliminate our stress, which is like impossible,
Yeah.
it's about building a different relationship with stress and having tools to be able to digest our stress, to metabolize our stress. That's the way I like to think about it. And and then having the tools to also, work be aware of that itty bitty shitty committee that's inside our
I
heads
love that.
and
Yeah, I love that. I always call it you had mentioned the little bully. That's why I tell my kids, what's that little bully inside telling you, and I love the way you say
yeah,
it.
exactly. Like we all have it, right?
Yeah, oh,
And
we all do. I still do. And I have to be aware, that awareness, like, okay, where is it coming from? And how I can pivot and shift those mindsets is huge. And you mentioned, actually, just to circle back to your symptoms of the gut, that is the
Mm,
mind gut connection. I
mm,
talk about, and that's where it hit me first. And those are your signals. Okay, your
mm.
mind is speaking to each cell of your body, and it's telling you, okay, we need to pivot these mindset shifts, and then how important it is to become aware of them.
Exactly. And I mean, yeah, awareness is key, right? And there's tools like meditation, like, you know, focusing on conscious breathing that allows us to be aware of these thoughts, but not get attached to them, not identify with the stories in our heads. And then also in this course, we'll also be diving into mindful movement, different movement practices that we can help to realign our musculoskeletal system. Because I truly feel that yoga, a lot of people think, yoga is just for stretching or it's a workout, but it's so much more than that. I think it's this ancient practice that was gifted to us, that is very sophisticated, that helps to actually realign our whole musculoskeletal system back into harmony,
Mhm.
and allowing us to also be better aware of our posture, our body, the tension that we hold, just like, knowing what our patterns are, whether that's like clenching our teeth or our shoulders are really tense when we're working in the chair with our patients, where our body is in space. Sometimes, yes, we have to bend over, but maybe you're activating muscles that you don't even need to, you're tensing so much throughout the day that when you have that body awareness to soften while you're working on a patient, and then tools to reduce like repetitive strain injury, like that leads to carpal tunnel or tendonitis, and as well as tools to release the areas that are the most long held, that we have the most tension in, such as the neck and shoulders, the hips, the back, the spine. So there's just different movement practices that I share in the program that are like 5 to 15 minutes long. They don't take a long time, but I like to think of that as like flossing and brushing for our
I
bodies.
like that. And we
you
need
know
simple tools, right? Like, just to hear that it's 5 minutes, then it's not so overwhelming. Like, oh, I need to find this much more time. No, work, bring it back and simplifying and that's how quick you can change the physiology of your body.
Yeah, exactly. And so a lot of these tools, they're meant to be integrated into a busy lifestyle that we lead as, ambitious professionals. And then there's the piece around the nervous system where, I mean, there's so much I want to dive into in terms of the nervous system, but tools to support when we're in survival states of the nervous system. So, for example, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and shutdown. So there's actually 5 survival states of the nervous system. And most people, just hear about the fight and flight, but there's so much more within that, where when we see through the lens of the nervous system, we start to realize, wow, like all the things that I thought was my personality is actually just my nervous system going into a specific survival state, which is really profound. So, for example, if for freeze is something that that people don't realize is when you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, indecisive, and you might think, wow, I'm like just an indecisive person. It's hard for me to make decisions. But that is actually your nervous system going into freeze. And so this can look like in dentistry, being indecisive about your treatment planning during procedures, and also avoiding difficult conversations. So avoidance pattern and procrastination is another
Yes.
response, which for the longest time, I thought I was just like a procrastinator. Why do I keep leaving everything to the last minute? But that is actually your nervous system going into freeze. And it can also look like, when we feel overwhelmed and there's just so many things that we have to do, so that our nervous system goes into overwhelm. And so instead, to avoid what we have to do because we're stuck in freeze, we then go into doom scrolling, reading our emails, watching Netflix. This avoidance pattern, avoiding the decisions and responsibilities, is our nervous system in freeze mode, and has nothing to do with who you are as a person, your personality, that you're not good enough. We tend to blame it on ourselves, that there's something wrong with us, but it's actually our nervous system.
I love that you mentioned that. And I'm nodding the whole way because I'm like, oh, I've been through that. I've been through that freeze where I'm so overwhelmed that making that next step, and how the procrastination or even willingly seeing your truth, seeing if you want to have a mirror in front of you and your nervous system and overwhelm, you won't be ready to make that next step. And I know that plays a big role for the dentist trying to talk to patients into the next step treatment. They'll be better off for their health. But oftentimes patients are sitting in that chair and they are already in that freeze state. They're already in the, just completely overwhelmed just for life. And now they're in a chair and they're like, great, what are they going to tell me? I have all these things wrong. And it's really overwhelming. So if a dentist could recognize that about their patient, that is their nervous system, and kind of peel it back, is like, what can I do as a provider to help these patients in my chair? What's going to be able to calm their nervous system when they're here? And so I think that's just such an important program that you're putting on right now for the dental provider, because it's the awareness, but also embodying these practices for them to become comfortable with them. At first it might be uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Like anything. Like I know, I've dove into many healing modalities, and a lot of them are emotional release, more somatics, from hypnosis to parts work, inner child work. And at first, when you do it, you're like, this is kind of silly. I don't know how this is working, and bringing in the science. And I think this is going to be such an important program. And I encourage, any dentists to really, that are starting to maybe feel some signs of that overwhelm. They're like, I'm stuck. I know a lot of dentists that I know are stuck, financially, the financial pressures. And they were told the same thing going into the dental industry, but they truly feel stuck. But this provides for their family, right?
Mm.
But they're struggling, and I think there's just not enough programs out there for dental professionals. And so I honor you to, share through your purpose, through your own story, that you've created this Rise to Thrive program and bring a nervous system awareness. I can't help but see the entire world, and especially dental profession, what's affecting them on a daily. Do you find it's hard for some dentists you're talking to bring in that science, or for them to really want to see that this patient holding fear and anxiety in that dental chair, it is affecting you? Like, do you find that they're grasping that, or they're thinking that's more woo woo?
I feel like, yeah, like bridging the science, I feel like is just a key piece. As someone who is like a science nerd, I love to bridge the science, because a lot of, and I'm always, when things are happening in my body or I'm going through something, I'm always questioning, like, what is the physiology and the biology that's happening within me. And so I think a lot of these concepts that seem like woo, when we actually dig into it, there's a lot of physiology and biology behind it. And this is something that I'm very passionate about explaining, and it's a big part of the program, where a lot of the things that we might be going through or feeling, helping them see through that nervous system lens to understand rationally. And so when we have more rational understanding of these pieces, it allows us to better explain to our patients, better support our patients, and like you're saying, with patients that have a lot of, dental anxiety, and we're supporting these patients in the chair who have trauma and have had a lot of fear around dentistry. I mean, our patients are in another survival state, which is flight, right? And the flight response feels like, I just want to run away from the situation. A lot of our patients are like,
Yeah.
I haven't been to a dentist in 7 years, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm really embarrassed about it, but I'm freaking
Oh, I
terrified.
oftentimes in my hygiene chair, it's like, I'm just coming here for the cleaning. Like, I don't want to hear anything else.
Yeah,
I'm like, well,
exactly. Exactly. And the more
yeah.
that if we start to see through the lens of the nervous system, we can start to bring a lot more compassion to our patients, and understanding about, I feel like there's actually no program out there for dentists that have this awareness around trauma, which we talk in, we discuss more in the ache. So the program is called Aches to Ease, actually. So it's moving from aches to ease. And and so then we have more tools to support ourselves when we're in flight, but also support our patients who don't feel safe in the chair, and really helping them. I think one of the key pieces of the nervous system is safety, is so that patients feel like they can trust us, like we got them, like that it's safe to be here. And one of the things that I also talk about in the program is this concept of co-regulation, which is when we are grounded, present, relaxed in our body, connected to our body, our patients naturally feel more at ease, like they can relax, like they can feel safe. And that is like a superpower that I feel like a lot of people, especially in the dental world, don't know they have access to. And so,
Yeah. How would
it's
you explain that to, like, what do you practice? So do you practice yourself before you show up for that exam, or with that patient, you could sense that they're in that flight? Do you just calm your breath? Like, what do you do so then you show up? Because I know all about co-regulations. Kids co-regulate with their parents, right? Nervous system for a really long time. And so do the patients in close proximity. So you're saying if the provider shows up with a calm and presence, and
Mhm.
then the patient will be able to come in coherence with the provider. And
Yes.
in turn, the provider is not going to be taking on any stressors, or, that energy from them. So there's a win-win situation there too.
Exactly. Yeah. So when I am working with an anxious patient, the first thing I do is focus on myself first before I even enter into that room. If my, dental assistant says, "Hey, this patient is like really anxious and is crying in your chair right now," which can happen.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so the first thing I do is a breath practice that I'll share with people listening, which I feel like is can really feel supportive, is the physiological sigh breath. It's also known as cyclic sighing. This breath is one of the most well researched breath, and how. And I'm just going to guide you for this breath so that you can
Yeah.
have this for
Mhm.
yourself. So basically, I always love to bring my left hand to my heart and right hand on my belly,
Mhm.
and just taking a moment to notice what's here. So I always just check in with myself, like, where am I at with my nervous system right now, right? And as you connect with that left hand to your heart, notice your heartbeat. Notice if it's moving fast or slow. Notice the rhythm of your heart and any other communications in your body. Maybe you're feeling heaviness in your heart right now. Maybe you're feeling lightness. So whatever is here, just letting it be here without changing anything. Just bringing compassion to what is here. And now noticing your breath, noticing the quality of your breath, the pace of your breath. Is it short and shallow? Is it long and deep? So I think it's really important to always take a moment to just bring awareness to what's here without any judgment, with compassion. And this is a core concept of mindfulness. And as you notice that, so we're going to start to take three physiological sigh breaths together. So we'll start with a deep breath in through the nose, breathing into your belly, and a second breath at the top into the chest, and exhale out the mouth for 6 counts. And again, deep breath into the belly, into the chest, and exhale out the mouth for 6. And once more, into the belly, into the chest, filling your whole body up, and sigh out the mouth for 6 counts. And just taking a moment to notice any shifts physiologically. Maybe you're starting to feel your breath slowing down naturally. Maybe you're starting to feel your breath deepen. And just taking a moment to notice if you're tensing anywhere else in your body. So paying attention to your feet, feeling the contact of your feet touching the ground. So this is another tool I love, to bring awareness to my feet touching the ground. It's very grounding for our bodies. And also notice if you're holding any tension in your body. So scanning your legs for any tension. If you're activating any muscles, just soften your muscles, soften your hips, soften your shoulders. Maybe just gently rolling the shoulders down and back. And just softening your jaw, wiggling your jaw side to side. And then swallow, separate your teeth with the tongue and the roof of the mouth, feeling your jaw completely relaxed. And feeling your temples, your forehead softening. So,
That was beautiful. I love
how
it.
you feel
Yes.
now. That took like 5 minutes. I mean, you don't have to go through this whole process, but this is something that, I've done so many times naturally within myself that it just only takes a couple minutes to recenter, to ground. And then I walk into the room, and the key is I'm just present with the patient. I just take the time to hear why, they're feeling anxious. Get curious. That's another tenet of mindfulness, is curiosity. Get curious about their history, their past trauma, giving them space to share whatever they want to share and what their main concerns are. And I just listen. I just take in what they're saying and just be present and listen. Because a lot of times we might interject a patient, we might, think we know better or think we assume something about them. But when we actually are in that open, receptive, deep presence with our patients, they feel heard, they feel seen. When you feel heard and you feel seen and you feel listened to, you start feeling safe in your nervous system. And so that bridge with that patient is can create a huge impact. And then I give them information. I share knowledge of different options. And then when they sit in the chair with me, when I'm also relaxed, they start to feel relaxed. And I get this a lot. I get a lot of patients saying, wow, this is the most relaxed dental experience I've ever had. I almost fell asleep. Like, this has never happened to me before. And I'm not special. I'm not special. Anyone can have access to these skills, but it takes time, it takes training. I mean, this was a decade for me of repetition, of learning how to read my nervous system, learning how to read other people's nervous system, and having the tools to be able to support patients in this way. So I feel like
You're
these are
feeling the shift now. You're able to see how imperative that is so they can feel that safety, and this helps them heal and build that trust. And in turn, you're not taking on their nervous system on a daily basis. So building that trust. So that obviously for many providers, it's almost also shifting their schedule, allowing a bit more time to connect, right? Because oftentimes it's just a very quick, but allowing more time. I know now when I work for biological dentists, there is more time
Mm,
allotted for exams because they want to listen, and it's important for the provider to know that, because oftentimes uh, patients they got to trust their intuition, and you got to listen to them. Their body has been speaking, and there's some things that might not be shown yet, but they know something's wrong, maybe on this tooth on the right here, but nothing's showing up on the x-ray, but you're listening. Okay, why are they feeling that there? What's the deep
mm,
root? So it's important that work on yourself first as a provider. I think that's an important thing to say. Same thing that I was told as a mom: work on myself first, so I can show up as a regulated parent, so my kids co-regulate with me. And it takes a lot of practice, right? A lot of practice. You're tested very often. And it's like, so now there's not feeling that shame and that guilt when you take more time now to instill these practices for yourself. And now I have some non-negotiables, right? And I become so attuned to my nervous system and what's affecting it. We don't live in a bubble. So there's a lot of environmental factors on a daily basis that will affect our nervous system, and become aware of those things. So having these tools that you're going to be teaching is imperative. And I think as we grow now, as we want things so faster as a community, and that's affecting our nervous system from, the 5Gs, the 7Gs, and all of that. That also plays a big role. Nutrition and having nervous system tools right now, I feel it was going to be vital for human sustainability on a whole, and definitely in a profession. So if anyone now wanted to work with you, wanted to join along this program, what is your information that you can share? I know we'll have it in our show notes, but I always love for you to share it out loud as well.
yeah, yeah. Actually, is it okay? I just add one more
Oh,
thing because
absolutely. Oh, yes.
yeah,
Anything, yes.
yeah.
As
Um,
many things as you like. I think this is an important topic. Yes.
Yeah, no, because now that you're saying about, we live in this fast moving society, and even in dentistry, right? It's such a fast pace. We try to, overbook our schedules and not leave that spaciousness. And I just wanted to share that that's actually our nervous system in flight, right? And how I like to and I wanted to create that awareness of because for me to see that, wow, that is like a survival pattern in flight where I have to keep going. I have to be productive. I have to move faster. And in dentistry, this can show up as having too full of a schedule, or overworking, or skipping out on our breaks, or even in our life, like booking too many things and juggling too many things
Because it's
at
what
once.
your body is accustomed to, right? That's what it becomes normal. So you crave that normalcy, even though it's not good for you, right?
Yeah, so it's a pattern. Like,
Right.
our nervous system can go into a pattern because we've the reason why we go into flight is this worry that we're never gonna, like, that if we don't keep moving, if we don't keep doing, we're gonna fall behind. That
I
things in
see.
our life are gonna fall down and
Yeah.
crumble, right?
Yes.
It's and so it's this, like, what's next? What's the next goal? This, and even at home, it can look like constantly being busy, cleaning our house, scrolling on the phone, always doing tasks, and then when we try to relax, it feels uncomfortable. It feels like boredom. It can feel like uneasy, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and I just wanted to share, when we start to see that through the lens of the nervous system, then we can take a step back and be like, okay, I'm in flight right now. Like a tool that you can do if you're in flight is, let's say you have like a specific movement practice you do, whether that's yoga or working out. See if you can actually do the movements 5 times slower.
Okay, I like that.
So for me, my thing is, I always go to mindful movement, but I just move super slow, and this causes me to slow down my breath. And that alone, just taking pockets of your day to move slower,
Hmm.
cues the nervous system that slowing down is safe.
Oh, I like that. I've actually practiced that, just even shifting the way I train, right? Exercise.
Mhm.
And I actually have like, oh, I need more of slower movements,
Yeah.
long, and not so much the fast pace. And depending, I do it intuitively, and being comfortable in the slowing down, or not the busy schedule. And I love that you mentioned that. I think that's so important for so many of us to reprogram the way we've always been taught in achieving more. And even actually, I recorded just a solo episode last week about utilizing the summer. Like, for often, when your kids are in school and sports, it's a lot of very much the busyness. And I notice it in my children's nervous system when they come home from school. They are so depleted, and how that's affecting them. So I'm actually utilizing our summer for slowing down. And it's hard because I feel like, oh, I need to keep them busy. But
Mm.
bring normalcy in boredom, in slowing down, and actually, what can we do to learn these extra tools for my kids right now to work on their nervous system when we're going to start the school year? I have not decided to homeschool or do different kinds of schooling modalities for them. So we're committed to the regular school system right now. So how can I provide them these tools going to school when their nervous system is exactly on that overdrive? So that's my goal this summer, is actually work on more tools leading into that environment. And same for you, you're providing that for dentists. It's a busy schedule. My husband would have 3 columns of people plus 2, 3 hygienists. And it was just, yeah, you move through. And for me, yeah, same thing. I'd bring the kids, drive them to school, start work all the way through lunch, don't stop for lunch. And then, okay, now it's time to go get my kids, start dinner. And it was just, wow, I prided myself like, whoa, I could do so much. But
Mm.
realizing how that impacts you over time. And so, yeah, it is all about awareness and seeing and finding normalcy in the slowing down. I'm going to try that a bit more with my workouts. I love that with movement, the slowing
Mm.
down.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that too, like passing that those everything that you're learning to your kids, right? These skills, they're life skills. They ripple beyond just us and into our family systems.
Mhm.
And, like, I feel like our kids have a head start. Like, I wish I was taught these tools way earlier, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
I had to go through multiple burnouts. I know you've gone through, you've had your own
Oh,
health
yes,
journey
yes.
that happened with your husband too, and your story is so powerful. And so, you know, um, giving these foundational tools to our kids. And my vision really is one day, hopefully getting this program into the dental schools and having dental students have access to these
Oh, this is
tools.
huge. I have a dental student, actually, a story later today. She's going to share, in dental school. It's so stressful. I have a friend that's in dental school right now in Colorado, and she's overwhelmed. And I know so many have struggled mentally in dental school. And so having this kind of program, it would be huge. Yeah, it would be huge. Or at least having an injunction, you could start, contacting schools and seeing if you can incorporate it or at least come talk about it. And
Yeah.
luckily now a lot of things could be virtual, is virtual, so they can be anywhere globally.
Yeah, totally. It's funny because I still, to this day, this is, I'm a decade out as a clinician, and I still have nightmares
Oh, wow.
about dental school where I didn't study enough. Like I re- studied the wrong material. I showed up to the exam at
Yeah.
a
And the
different time.
pressure is intense. That's how I start my talk. That's how I started my talk at the TDA. I was bringing back to dentists to that first day of dental school and how they felt, and how after those 4 years of dental school, the grinding and all of that, and how that impacted them. And then it was almost like a relief. Yay, I graduated. But then you get into practice and you're like, realize it's a constant lifestyle in dentistry, that constant pressure. And so, yes, I think, bring this as a whole for dental students and prepping them and giving them the tools. I love what you're doing. I know the passion is there, and I'm glad we got aligned, and that we reached out. And I love that you're actually in British Columbia and Sunshine Coast. And in Sunshine Coast has such a big heart for me. We had a cabin there growing up in Saginaw Lake. And I love that somebody kind of mentioned me, and you listened to the call.
Yeah, you kept coming up in conversations, and it's so funny that you have a tie to where I live, which is such a, niche place
Yeah,
in
now I
my
get to be able to recommend you to people I know live there, and so that's very exciting. And what's the name of the dental practice you're working at right now?
It's called Gibson's Dental Center.
Center,
So
okay.
it's a holistic,
Because I have
yeah.
a lot of Canadian friends listening, so I know
Lovely.
where to find you. And
Yeah.
I don't want to miss anything. So if there's anything else that's on your heart to share or show, tell more people how, just about yourself and how they can reach you, please
Yeah.
don't hesitate.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for listening, and I hope that you've gained some tools, some insights, some perspective shifts from our conversation together. And if you'd love to learn more, and you feel like this can truly change your life, support your body and nervous system, so that you can retire from dentistry. Thriving right in our health so that we can feel energized, we can feel healthy, strong, aligned in our body, rather than our bodies breaking down way beyond our retirement years, and slow down our aging process, and be able to pass these tools on to your kids, to your staff, to your patients. Like this ripple, like we said, is huge. So if you feel called to find out more about the program, you can reach out to me. My website is www.resttothrive.com. And we can there's a link to the program down below. And my Instagram is Rest to Thrive as well. Feel free to message me if you have any questions. I would love to connect with
Yeah.
you. And yeah, and I also wanted to share that I have a free mindful movement practice. It's about 15 minutes long. It helps to realign our whole musculoskeletal system and target the most common aches and pains in our body. And it's completely free, and you can incorporate it even at the clinic too, not chair side, but in chairs, and use it even as part of your morning huddle, or it can be used before work, after work. It's really easy to integrate. So I wanted to also share that
Okay.
below.
Well,
for
perfect. Yeah, I'll have that all in the show notes and they can always contact you as well. And we definitely aligned as I just launched the Calm Chair Systems, which was meditations and breath work techniques that patients can do in the chair and in the waiting room and for the provider. Like you said, you mentioned as a team, I've done breathwork sessions for an entire dental team and how that shifts that energy. You, like you said, you mentioned drama and all the things that people carry into the dental practice, but the I always call them dental family. I'm still very much close friends with our dental family up in Alaska, but
Mm.
how we work on our nervous system together, how powerful that would be and become an awareness, these tools. So I honor you for doing similar work. And I think that's where dentistry needs to shift.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And I just love that you've created this Calm app. I'm so excited to,
Yeah,
dive
I'd
into
love
that.
for you to, pilot it and tell me your feedback and what patients are thinking and yourself as a provider, how that's helpful to have those mindset. They're also only 2 to 3 minutes long.
Mhm.
And so I recorded them at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was very activated and it's with visualizations is something easy to do before work in between patients to just kind of release and at the end of your day or with the staff and for the patients leading up to their appointment in the
Mm,
waiting room in the dental chair. So then they're not having to listen to the drills to everything else. They just kind of put in this little meditation. It has frequency as well. And it's all science based, what it will calm the nervous system. So it's such an honor. Thank you so much for conversation. I know you're on vacation in the UK right now, so I appreciate the time and for making it work. And we'll be in touch again for sure. I have no doubt we'll collaborate in
oh
the
yeah.
future.
No, absolutely. And I've invited Melissa to be a guest on in my course. So, and leading a little breath work.
I'm honored. I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait. Yes, I can't wait. I love
Yeah,
that, right? I always say I can't do it alone. I love collaborating with people, and it takes who you can reach. I probably can't. So if we work together, we can reach people globally, and that's our goal, right? To give back, to be of service to the community.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. And thank
Yeah.
you, everyone, for
Thank
tuning
you.
in.